There is a level in your financial life that you are unconsciously programmed to return to, no matter how much you earn, no matter how motivated you feel, and no matter how many times you try to break past it. It is not visible on a chart, and it does not show up in your bank account as a clear number, but it exists in your behavior. It exists in your decisions, your habits, and most importantly, your expectations. This is what can be described as your financial ceiling, the invisible limit that quietly controls how much wealth you allow yourself to build and keep over time. Most people assume that financial progress is determined by external factors like income, opportunity, or knowledge. And while those things matter, they are not the primary constraint. Because if they were, every high earner would be wealthy, every financially literate person would be financially independent, and every motivated individual would eventually succeed. But that's not what happens. Instead, people make progress, reach a certain level, and then stall. Or worse, they make progress and then regress, returning to a familiar financial state that feels normal, even if it's limiting. This pattern is not random. It is behavioral, and it is driven by a combination of conditioning, identity, and subconscious expectations about money. From an early age, people develop a baseline understanding of what money means, how it is used, and what level of financial success feels realistic. These beliefs are rarely examined, but they shape decisions in powerful ways. They determine how comfortable you are with saving, investing, earning more, and most importantly, keeping what you earn. As income increases, this ceiling begins to reveal itself. You might earn more money, but your expenses rise alongside it. You might save for a period of time, but then something happens. A large purchase, an unexpected expense, or a series of small decisions that gradually reduce your progress. You might even build momentum, only to interrupt it through behavior that feels justified in the moment. Each time this happens, you return to a familiar level. Not because you have to, but because it aligns with what feels normal. This is why some people can experience financial growth repeatedly and still end up in the same place. They are not lacking effort. They are not lacking opportunity. They are operating within a system that pulls them back to a predetermined range. And until that system is changed, the outcome will remain the same, regardless of how much income increases. One of the clearest indicators of a financial ceiling is the inability to maintain progress. It's not about whether you can earn more or save more temporarily. It's about whether you can sustain that progress over time without reverting. Many people can increase their savings rate for a few months. They can commit to investing consistently for a period. But eventually, something disrupts the pattern. And that disruption is rarely accidental. It is often the result of internal resistance to operating outside of what feels familiar. Comfort plays a significant role in this dynamic. Humans are wired to seek stability, and stability often comes from familiarity, not optimization. If you are used to a certain level of spending, saving more may feel restrictive. If you are used to a certain level of financial pressure, reducing that pressure may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. So even when positive changes are made, there is a tendency to revert to behaviors that restore a sense of normalcy. Another factor that reinforces the financial ceiling is identity. People develop an identity around money, often without realizing it. They see themselves as someone who spends, someone who struggles, or even someone who is just getting by, and identity drives behavior. If your actions begin to move you outside of that identity, there is often subconscious resistance. Not because you want to fail, but because your behavior is no longer aligned with how you see yourself. This is why simply increasing income is not enough to break through the ceiling. If the underlying identity and behavior remain unchanged, the additional income will be absorbed. It will be redirected into spending, lifestyle upgrades, or inefficient financial decisions. And over time, you will return to the same level, just with larger numbers. There is also a structural component to this ceiling. As income increases, people tend to increase fixed expenses, housing, transportation, subscriptions, and other recurring costs. These expenses create a baseline that must be maintained. And once that baseline is established, it limits flexibility. It reduces the ability to save, invest, or adjust. In effect, it locks you into a specific financial range. And that range often becomes your ceiling. Breaking through this ceiling requires more than effort. It requires awareness, intentionality, and a willingness to operate outside of what feels normal. The first step is recognizing that the ceiling exists, that your current financial state is not just a result of external circumstances, but also of internal patterns that can be changed. The next step is creating separation between income and lifestyle. Instead of allowing spending to rise automatically with income, you introduce a delay. You increase your investments first. You build assets before upgrading your lifestyle. This creates a gap, a space where wealth can begin to accumulate. And that gap is what allows you to move beyond your previous limits. Another critical shift is redefining what feels normal. Instead of normalizing consumption, you normalize investing. Instead of viewing saving as restrictive, you view it as strategic. Over time, these new behaviors become familiar, and the discomfort associated with them begins to fade. As that happens, your ceiling begins to rise. Automation also plays a key role in this process. By removing decision-making from your financial system, you reduce the influence of emotion and habit. Contributions happen consistently. Investments grow without interruption. And because the system operates independently, it is less likely to be disrupted by short-term behavior. There is also value in periodically increasing your standards, not your lifestyle, but your financial standards. Increasing your savings rate. Increasing your investment contributions. Increasing your expectations for what your money should be doing for you. These changes, when applied consistently, push your ceiling higher over time. But perhaps the most important factor is consistency. Breaking through a financial ceiling is not a one-time event. It is a gradual process of operating at a higher level until that level becomes your new baseline. It requires repetition, patience, and the willingness to stay committed even when progress feels slow. Because eventually, something shifts. The behaviors that once felt difficult become automatic. The level that once felt uncomfortable becomes normal, and the ceiling that once held you back no longer exists. At that point, your financial progress is no longer constrained by old patterns. It is driven by new systems that support growth. And that is when real wealth begins to form. Not because you suddenly earn more, but because you have removed the limitations that were preventing you from keeping and growing what you earn. If you take anything from this, let it be this: your income does not define your financial future. Your behavior does. And until you raise the level of what you consider normal, your results will always return to where they started. If this shifted your perspective, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Smart Money Compounds. Because here, we don't just focus on making money, we focus on breaking the limits that keep you from keeping it.